Hey there, and welcome to part 6 of our 6-part series on how a single or unmarried person protects what they have from the nursing home and qualifies for long-term care Medicaid. Okay, so it's been 6 consecutive days. I've done these videos. On to the last one, which is the actual Medicaid application process. So I'm just going to go over a few points surrounding questions we get, things handled incorrectly as part of the Medicaid application process. So the first thing I want to go over is some people ask if they can apply for Medicaid before they need it. You know, they're healthy, they feel like they've got their situation from a financial standpoint structured so that they'd qualify for Medicaid if they went into a nursing home, but you really can't apply for Medicaid or at least qualify for Medicaid unless you currently live or plan to live in a long-term care facility. So even though you feel like you may have assets and income structured the right way to qualify, can't apply and can't qualify until you live or plan to live in a long-term care facility. Okay, so you really, for reasons I'll talk about in a minute, you don't ever want to apply unless you're sure you're going to qualify. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but that's the general rule. You don't want to apply if you know you're not going to qualify because these penalty periods get assessed and that could be big trouble. Okay, so here's a few of the questions that are often asked. Again, I'm a Louisiana attorney, work with our Louisiana clients to get and keep their legal affairs in order. Every state's Medicaid application is going to be different. I'm going to address some of the questions that we see in the Louisiana application. One of them is, the question is, do you have a primary residence? Many people do when they enter a nursing home. And then the question asks, do you intend to return to your primary residence? Well, I know, at least I've been told by the Medicaid office, that this intent to return to the home is presumed. And the reason the home is not a countable resource is because, they don't want to force you to sell it and spend the money on the nursing home if your intent is, if you get better at the nursing home, to return to your home. So even though most people, once they go to a nursing home, they don't return, they may have an intent to return if they get better. So you want to always, if it's appropriate, answer that question, yes, do you have an intent to return? Another question often in the Medicaid application is, have you ever created a trust? And if you've done some Medicaid planning, planned ahead, perhaps you created a trust, you'll be answering yes to that question. And then at least our application asks a question that's really, I feel like, worded incorrectly. It asks, who does the trust belong to? And that's just not the right question to ask when you ask a question about a trust. Maybe you should ask, who are the principal beneficiaries of the trust? Who are the income beneficiaries of the trust? Who's the trustee of the trust? Who are the settlors of the trust? But to ask, who does the trust belong to? That's confusing. But I think what they're really asking is who are the principal beneficiaries of the trust? And so you'll list those individuals on the question, who does the trust belong to? Because if you did transfer assets to a trust with the intent to make a transfer and get those assets so that they're not countable resources of yours in the future, then other people are going to be the principal beneficiaries of that trust. And then it asks, what kind of trust is it? And I'm pretty sure they're getting, they're getting at whether it's a revocable trust, something that you can revoke, undo it, put everything back in your name. That would make you ineligible for Medicaid, or an irrevocable trust. So you want to answer that question the right way. And then it also asks, have you transferred any item of value in the past 60 months? This is one you got to be real careful with. So if the answer to that question is no, because you transferred things of value more than 60 months prior to the Medicaid application, then you should be in pretty good shape. But if you answer yes to that question, have you transferred any item of value in the past 60 months, then you got to be real careful answering yes to that question. It might be better if you just scrap the whole Medicaid application for now and wait until you would qualify for Medicaid, because if you answer yes to the have you transferred any item of value in the past 60 months, let's say 6 months before you transferred, $100,000, then when you answer yes, have you, if you're going to answer the question, you have to answer it correctly. If you say yes, then they're going to look at the items of value that you transferred in the past 60 months. Let's say it's $100,000. And they're going to make you ineligible for another 20 months. $100,000 transfer divided by $5,000 is what Louisiana determines the monthly rate to be. So they would render you ineligible for Medicaid for the next 20 months. Now, maybe it's to your advantage to have that penalty period start. Maybe it's better to wait until the 60 months past the transfer expires, and then you can apply for Medicaid and then answer no to the question, have you transferred any items of value in the past 60 months? So those are just some of the questions that I see either people misinterpret the question, or they answer it incorrectly, or they don't really understand what Medicaid is asking with the question. And so you want to make sure you get it right. Even with the best intention, if you answer questions incorrectly, it's going to really delay the processing and the qualification for long-term care Medicaid. Okay, so I'm going to put this video with the other 5 videos in a YouTube playlist that I'm going to post the link to the playlist in the description below. And again, if this is the first of the 6 that you've watched, or if it's the 6th of 6, you'll know that the first video was the big picture on single people attempting to qualify for Medicaid and protect what they have. The second video was all about the inventory of assets, debts, and income. The third was about to who or what will assets be transferred to. Fourth was what assets do you transfer. 5 was maintaining your plan from the time you make those transfers until the time you apply for Medicaid. And then this part was just a few tidbits on the actual Medicaid application process. Okay, so I'm looking forward to going on to another item. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And then if you know others, there's a share button on your screen where you can click share, and either by text or email or any of those other options, you can let other people know who are concerned, or let other people who have parents who are concerned about this. They'll thank you for forwarding the information. Okay, I'm Paul Rebele. You'll have a great day.